Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Stamperia Blue Dream mini album tutorial series designed for Scrap and Create. In this video, we're going to start building page 2, starting with the front side, and then we'll flip over and begin building page 2 on the back side. First thing we need to do is bring in our page 2, make sure that the opening for the pocket is on the right hand side. Now I have the back of page 1 here as a reference point to show you how I went about designing this so that it will actually match this. This is the main paper I'm going to use for the outside. It's going to bring some of that reddish tone in. And then I'm going to be using this image. This is from the 12 by 12 cut-aparts. And I'm going to be placing this here, so it's going to have this whole scene and it's going to bring all that colorful aspect in. So we're going to set this aside for now, and I'm going to bring in my different elements and show you what we're going to do. We need a piece of cardstock that measures 8 1/4 by 7 1/2. I'm going to place the 7 1/2 inch side along the scoreboard and score at 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to take a second piece of cardstock that measures 8 1/4 by 2 1/2. I'm going to put the 2 1/2 inch side along the scoreboard and score on the bottom of this piece at 1/2 inch. Using my bone folder, I'm going to fold and score on these score lines. Now with my page, I'm going to place this as a large upper flap here. So making sure that everything is lined up again, just so that everything is nice and straight. If you take your time here, it really pays off later so that when you go to place your decorative papers on, they aren't crooked in your album. So just add this right to the top. And then burnish this down. Then I'm going to take this smaller flap and I'm going to add my adhesive to my 1/2 inch tab section and place this down at the bottom of the page, making sure that the sides are lined up with the flap on the top. So this is going to be turned into a pocket later, just like we did previously on page 1. We're going to leave the ends open right now so that the decorative paper can be tucked into the pocket first, and then that pocket can be closed. So I'm going to write pocket as a reminder. Now I have a small pocket here and my large flap on the front. Next, we need to cut one piece that measures 6 inches by 6 1/2 inches, placing the 6 1/2 inch side on the scoreboard, scoring at 1/2 inch. Then cut a second piece that measures 6 inches by 6 inches, and cut a piece of acetate 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. For this card here, I think both sides are really pretty and I want to be able to see both of them in my album. So rather than just gluing this card down, I'm going to use the 3 pieces that we just cut and create a frame for this. So this will be on the front of the flap, and then this will be framed, and then a photo can slide in that frame. So I'm going to make a frame that's 3/8 of an inch all the way around. That way I still see most of my picture. And I'm going to start with my 6 by 6 inch piece. I'm going to use my paper trimmer to do this. If you do not feel comfortable doing it this way, you can always just use your ruler and measure 3/8 of an inch. But I'm going to do this so that it's a little bit quicker. So measuring 3/8 by 3/8. And then here I'm going to come down to 5 5/8 of an inch. Again, repeating that same process. We're going to start at 3/8 and go down to 5 5/8. Again, taking your time if you're using your paper trimmer, just making sure that everything is right where it needs to be. So now I have this piece that's going to be framed here like this. My acetate is going to be between those two pieces. My acetate's going to be stuck to the front of the frame, and the photo will slide between the acetate and the decorative paper. So now I'm going to repeat that same process here. Ignoring this 1/2 inch strip, this is 6 by 6, we're going to do the same exact thing. So I'm going to start on this side of it and come back to the side with the tab last, starting at 3/8 of an inch and going down to 5 5/8. Now what I'm going to do for this one, I need to make sure that I line up my score line with 3/8 of an inch. And the nice thing about these wire cutters is you can see where that's going to end up. So I've got mine correct. And now I'm going to bring this one in at 3/8 of an inch, and I'm going to go from where my cut is here, excuse my head, to where my cut is here. And I have my frame. I'm going to flip this over and score this on that 1/2 inch tab. And then I'm going to take my picture So as I did this, I realized that I need to correct a design. By the time you watch this, it will be corrected for you. So when I do this, I flip up and my image is upside down, and I don't like that. So instead, I'm going to have the tab be on the side so this flap flips out, but it'll flip out so that you'll see this image in both directions. So I'm going to fix mine by cutting my tab off and just making another tab, so it won't be a big deal. Like I said, I will edit this video so that when you go to make yours, you will make yours correctly. So next you're going to make this piece. You want to make sure that your tab is over here on the left hand side, and then place your picture right down on that paper. Next, I'm going to be placing my acetate sheet right down on top of this, and then I will place my frame over that, and I will leave an opening so that the photo can either slide in the side or slide in the top. So first, we are going to be placing the acetate sheet down on our frame first. And I'm going to see if I can get away with using 1/4 inch. I think I can. Yep. So I'm going to use my 1/4 inch double-sided tape and run it right next to the edge of my frame on all 4 sides. And then I'm going to place my acetate down to cover that. Now that I have my tape on, I'm going to pull up my corners, use my little trick that I showed you in the last video, to place my pieces, or to place my piece of acetate. Now that my frame has my acetate on it, I'm going to place my adhesive on my flap. And again, I'm going to use my 1/4 inch. I've decided I want my photo to slide in from the side. If you want to do it from the top, you can too, but you're just going to place your adhesive wherever you want the frame to go and leave that opening. So my opening is going to be on that side, so these other 3 sides will have the adhesive, but not that side one. And so if you're doing the top, just leave the adhesive off the top and put it on the side. I'm going to remove my corners of my backing just like I did with the frame, just to get those started. Now taking the frame, flipping it over, making sure the side with the acetate edges is down, we're going to place our frame and lining everything up. So I'm going to start here with these edges that don't have any of the tape removed. And once it's lined up, go ahead and press down into the adhesive. And place your frame over the page. So now we have our frame on, and there is the opening for a photo to go in. So now this is going to go on this page later because we're going to need to cut this decorative paper down to size, and it is going to go here on the front as a flap. That flap will open this way, and then I'm going to have a little swing tab from the starfish here that's going to hold this closed. So it will swivel down, it will open, room for the frame, another photo on the page there, and that'll be that spread. And then remember, we've got our flap here and our pocket. So I am going to place these pieces in here just to keep them all in one place for now. That is all we're going to do with the front of page 2. And now we'll flip over and we'll work on the back of page 2. Starting with the back of page 2, this is the paper that I'm going to use as my inspiration for the page. So again, it's one of those large images that I want to keep intact. I don't want to cut this apart. So what I'm going to do on this page is actually cut this in half here and have a flap that opens up this way and another flap that opens up this way. So we're going to split that page. First, you're going to need to cut a piece of cardstock that's 5 1/4 by 8 1/4 inches. And then on this piece, we're going to place the 5 1/4 inch side up against the scoreboard and score at 1/2 inch on the right-hand side. Next, taking a piece that measures 4 inches by 8 1/4 inches, placing the 4-inch side along the top of the scoreboard, again, scoring at 1/2 inch on the right-hand side. Next, we're going to cut one piece of cardstock that measures 1 1/4 by 8 1/4. Nothing needs to be scored here, so we'll just set that aside. Next, we have a tiny little piece that measures 2 1/2 by 1 inches. We're going to score on the 2 1/2 inch side from the left at 1/2 inch. So this piece scored at 1/2 inch on the left-hand side. We're also going to need one piece of cardstock that's 2 5/8 of an inch by 2 1/2. If you want this to be a 2 5/8 inch square, you can cut it like that as well. It's going to have these little cut apart cards on it. So if it's easier for you to do the same sizes, you can do that, but I've cut mine down so that the border is uniform. The card is not a uniform size. So we're going to need one of those. And then we're going to use one of the Graphic 45 tags for a closure on the page. I'm going to start with my little tiny piece first. I'm going to fold on this score line and burnish that down. This is going to be attached to the front of here, and this is going to create a closure to hold this flap on. So we are going to take our 4-inch flap, fold over on the score line and burnish. Now this flap is going to go here on the edge of the page. It's going to open this direction. So we're not putting the scored edge on the side like this. We're putting the scored edge basically towards the center, but we're going to line this up with the edge of the page. So I'm going to take my adhesive first and place it on that 1/2 inch tab section on my flap. And now I have my page turned to the side just so that it's easier for me to see this on camera. I am going to line up my edges, make sure top and bottom are straight, and then press this down. Now I'm going to bring my decorative paper in for just a moment. This decorative paper is going to go here. This is going to be used as a belly band. It's going to go on the center of this flap here after the decorative paper is put on. And then this is going to be a closure mechanism. It's going to go under that flap. And then this will be our closure here. With this, it's going to tuck up under here. So we need to know all these elements to know where to place this closure. We don't want it to be all the way at the bottom of the page, but we don't want it to be too far up that the tag won't fit either. So I'm just going to move this down until I like the look of the spacing. I don't want it to be too far over, obviously, because of the cat. That's why I'm using this image. And I like it where it is, so I'm going to take these off. And now this is going to be about, the bottom edge is about 1 inch from the edge of the page. So I'm going to now open up my flap and measure up 1 inch and place a mark. Then I'm going to take my tiny little tab, place my adhesive on this, and I'm going to place this piece here. So the end is at that 1 inch mark, making sure though that the score line is actually just off the page. That way this flap will still close, and it will close and this won't catch. If it's too far in on the page, it'll actually cause this flap to not fold closed all the way and it'll bubble up. So you need to make sure that everything closes smoothly and adhere that down. So now we have that little tiny piece down and ready to go. And then next, what we're going to do is center this piece here on the flap. So I'm going to use my centering ruler to do this. If you don't have a centering ruler, you'll just need to mark. This will be 1/2 inch from the edge. And I'm going to first erase that number that I had there, and I'm just going to draw a line right down that page. I'm going to add my adhesive here, just to that area on the right hand side. And now I'm going to place this down. I am just going to be eyeing this from top to bottom, but if you really want to make sure, mine's actually perfectly even, that's really nice. So if you want to make sure it's perfectly even, use your ruler to measure that too, and it's actually going to be about 1/4 inch from the bottom of the page to be centered. So now we have that piece in. We will eventually add magnet here and on that belly band to close that flap. The belly band is going to go in here, just like that, but since it isn't going to go in until we have our decorative paper on, I'm just going to take a piece of washi tape and put it right there so that I know where that belly band goes later. Next, I'm going to take my large flap and fold over my 1/2 inch tab, burnish this really well, and then we're going to place this on the page. But before we do, we need to make sure it fits and trim it if it doesn't. So we're going to place this on the edge of the page, and I'm just going to place it on the edge first. And I do have a slight overhang here, and it actually is okay because the tag is going to tuck under here, but I actually want this to sit down like this. So I'm just going to flip over. There's a little tiny bit of an edge that I need to trim off. So I'm going to bring this to my paper trimmer. And trim this down. It's going to be, for me, just under 4 3/4 inch. So now that fits on my page better. I'm going to add my adhesive and apply that to the right-hand side of the page, making sure that it's lined up with the edge of the page and then the top and bottom as well. So now I have my large flap that opens up. I have my closure mechanism, my belly band, and my smaller flap that opens this direction. So this will be our closure too, so I'm just going to place everything together. Now that's it for the back of page 2. So page 2 front and back are complete. In the next video of the tutorial series, we will be working on building page 3, so stay tuned. And if you are new to the tutorial series, don't forget to check out the description box below for all of the links from the Scrap and Create website where you can pick up all of those Blue Dream papers.